Welcome everyone to the 2022 Selling More Maine Foods series, Selling in Today's Food and Beverage Industry. My name is Tanya Swain and I'll be doing this morning's introductions. Today is the second session in the series and we'll focus on a discussion with businesses in the food service space. A quick note that today's webinar will run until 9:15 a.m. Thanks to everyone who joined us last week. This is a little bit different format than last week's session. Today, we're gonna have a panelist discussion followed by Q&A. We'll introduce the panelists momentarily, and we'll invite you to post questions in the chat during the discussion. A note that the session will be recorded and posted online. If you do not want to be recorded, please shut your video off. And also this morning, we have closed captioning available for today. I'm gonna put some directions in the chat for anybody that wants to take advantage of that. And essentially, if you follow the directions, what it'll enable you to do is to have subtitles on your screen for folks that may have difficulty hearing. Selling More Maine Foods is an information and education series for value-add food and beverage producers in Maine. The three-part series is coordinated by 4 organizations. I work with Maine Food Strategy, which convenes people across the state to work on projects that benefit from state-level collaborative approaches to address food system challenges. And I'm going to hand it off now to one of my colleagues, Christine, to introduce herself.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Cummings. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Grocers and Food Producers Association. MGFPA is a membership-based business trade association representing Main Street businesses, independently owned and operated grocery and convenience stores, supermarkets, and food and beverage producers and processors. We are primarily a legislative advocacy organization. We are based in Augusta, and I spend most of my time up at the State House during the legislative session. We work closely with the Maine Department of Ag, Department of Labor, DECD, and others, and serve as a liaison for our members working with the state and the administration. We are a community dedicated to the prosperity of Maine's grocery and food producer industry through excellence, advocacy, networking, and education. And I welcome you all this morning. Certainly, please reach out if there's anything we can do to be of assistance. And I will hand it over to our colleague, Bill Soretta with Fork Food Lab. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. I'm Bill Soretta, Executive Director of Fork Food Lab. Fork Food Lab is a nonprofit shared commercial kitchen in Portland. We're focused on growing the local Maine food economy by supporting the growth of sustainable Maine food businesses, providing workspace, equipment, resources, and access to locally sourced ingredients. This year, we expect to move to a new and larger facility on Darling Ave in South Portland, and we'll be expanding our processing and packaging capacity, providing private spaces for growing local businesses. Thank you all for attending today. I hope you find this workshop useful, and remember we have one more next week. Now I'll turn it over to Sue Hansen.
Sorry about that. While I was sharing my screen on live, I could not unmute myself. So I apologize for that. So my name is Sue Hansen, and I'm the program manager for one of our food programs at the Maine Center for Entrepreneurs. And MCE for short is actually going into our 25th year. We're a nonprofit organization that works with Maine entrepreneurs through all stages of their business life cycle to provide them with the tools and resources, coaching and mentoring, et cetera, needed to successfully build and grow their businesses. And our main focus is on business and market development. And thanks to our partner at Focus Maine, in the last 4 years, we've added 2 programs specifically designed for Maine's food and beverage companies looking to grow. So we have our cultivator program, which I manage, which is for established food and beverage companies that are looking to take their business to the next level. So they're looking to scale up. And then we have our market share program, which is for more mature companies who are really looking to more aggressively expand regionally and nationally, and that's really focused on market development. And so over the last 4 years through those 2 programs, we've worked with over 60 food companies. And we also have our Top Gun program that many of you are probably familiar with. That's our flagship program that's, I think, going into its 13th year this year. And we've had quite a few food companies go through that program. So another 50 food companies over the last 12 years have gone through that program. So We love working with Maine food companies. We have programs for all stages of your life cycle. If you have any questions on what we do or the resources we have access to, please feel free to reach out to me directly. And I'm excited to have you all here today, and actually I am also going to be facilitating our discussion with our panel today, so I'm really excited about hearing from them. So let's get started. I am going to make my thing bigger here. Okay, so before we start, I just wanted to ground everybody a little bit on the food service sales channel. And if you joined us last week, Matt Cotton from Rooted Food Sales took us through a little bit of this in the food service sales channel. And it's important for folks to know that the food service channel is broken up into two segments. There's a commercial segment, which is, you know, your restaurants and hotels and entertainment facilities. So those are folks that, like, their primary service is food. And that represents about 75% of the total in 2019, like $800 billion food service industry. And then there's the non-commercial side, which is more like the business and industry. So maybe in your workplace, you might have, you know, a cafeteria, colleges and universities, hospitals and nursing homes, airlines and cruise ship and military. So those are folks that food is a secondary service to what their main service is. And that represents about 25% of that, you know, $800 billion industry. So today, our speakers represent both commercial and non-commercial.
Sue, just to check in, are you sharing your screen?
Oh, I am.
No, we can't. We actually can't see it.
All right. Well, okay.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
All right. Hold on.
Sorry, folks. Hold on.
Yeah. Hold on. Could everybody see that? All right. Sorry about
Yes.
that.
Thank you, Sue.
Yep. And I will make it bigger here too. Not had this problem before, but of course we're going to have it today. So here's really what I took you guys through here, commercial, non-commercial, and what's included there. I think what's also important to note, even on the restaurant side, right, it doesn't just say restaurants. There's multiple different types of restaurants, right, and each of those restaurant types probably have different requirements, right, and there's different opportunities within each of those. So just to also ground people on the food service industry and sales over the last 3 years, right? So today we're here to kind of learn about, not so much about what happened in COVID and really talking about that, but more so trying to look forward, right? So what did we learn through COVID, but what is here to stay, and what do we need to understand, and how have things changed? But I think it's just important for folks to see, you know, how much of an impact COVID made to the food service industry, and that it is starting to come back. So as you can see from this slide, we have 2019 sales here in orange, 2020 sales in blue, and 2021 in green. And the source of this data is the U.S. Census Bureau, and it's revenue from food services and drinking places. So it takes, you know, commercial, non-commercial, all the food service kind of spending. And what you see here, right, not surprising, you see this big dip in 2020, right, in April when we had all of the closures and COVID first came out. And then you started to see, you know, that starting to rebound as things started to open up, but still, right, a lot, never to 2019 levels. So there's when I saw these numbers, I was like, is it really $152 billion? I'm like, it must be million, but it's a $152 billion decrease that we saw in the U.S. in 2020 versus 2019 in terms of revenue spent at these food service places. And obviously that decline was driven by the COVID restrictions and closures. We did see in 2021, where you see in March and April, right? So April was the first month that we actually saw an increase over 2019. and we continue to see it grow, right? Same patterns. If you look at this and you look at the patterns, right, there's seasonality through all of this. The revenues have rebounded. And through November, you can see this, this bottom bullet here is that food service sales were up 5.6% over 2019 for that same time period. But it's important to note that all of that is not necessarily volume growth. We know that we've had inflation. So a lot of that growth is driven by inflation. And I don't know this for a fact, but my gut would tell me that volume at food service is probably down, but revenues are up. And 5.6% is not a big increase over 2019. And then of course over 2020 we've made, we've closed quite a bit of gap at 31% increase over 2020 for that same time period. So I thought this would be interesting information to share so people just kind of realize where our speakers today, or our panelists today, are coming from and some of the devastating losses they've had to deal with and then rebound from. So I'd like to introduce our panel. I'm going to ask each of these folks after I stop sharing my screen after this to share a little bit more depth about their companies and who they are. But today we have Jack Barber, who's co-owner of Mainly Burgers, who has brick and mortar restaurants as well as food trucks in Massachusetts and Maine, and I'll let Jack talk to that in a minute. Then we have Darren Goldstein, who's co-owner and chef of Provender Kitchen and Bar in Ellsworth, Maine. And we have Maine McGinnis, who's the director of the Maine course by Sodexo here in Maine. So I'm really excited to have this panel here. I think, when you look at the commercial and non-commercial channel, Maeve is really going to represent that non-commercial channel, where Darren and Jack will represent the commercial channel and, different restaurant types. So I'll be excited to hear from them. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And so let's start with Jack.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here. My name is Jack Barber. I'm the co-owner of Mainly Burgers. I own it along with my brother, Max. We are a food truck company based in Portland, and then we have 2 brick and mortar restaurants in the greater Boston area. So in Maine, we primarily focus on catering and private and public events. And then we really do focus on sourcing as local as possible, use grass-fed beef, and really try to make sure that all of our potatoes come from Maine, from Green Thumb Farms. And it's really important to our mission and our business to source local and then to be able to grow the entire, Maine and New England food economy with our business.
Thank you, Jack. Darren, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Darren Goldstein. I'm the chef and co-owner of Provender Kitchen and Bar in downtown Ellsworth. I co-own Provender with my wife, Joy, and we started in 2017. We're going to our 5th year now. We're located in the beautiful Lucchini building in the heart of downtown Ellsworth, and we're a fine dining 65 seats restaurant.
Great. Maeve? Oh, Maeve, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Great. I pulled my get out. I just decided.
Oh, Maeve, we're having a hard time hearing you, so I don't know. You probably want to maybe shut off your video.
What is that?
That's better. Can everybody hear her better now? We just wanted to make sure you saw her face before she went into the Maeve McGinnis black and white screen.
My name is Maeve McGinnis. I am the Maine Food Director for Sodexo here in the state of Maine. The main course is our commitment to make a positive economic impact at the state through purchases of local products, produce, services, and responsibly harvested underutilized seeds. By creating inclusive market opportunities for local producers with intentional collaboration and transparency across multiple dimensions of diverse communities. Sodexo is a global company that are the 19th largest employer in the world. And we focus on quality of life services, and in Maine specifically, that primary business is food service. So college campus dining, and my job is to increase the local food that we're sourcing at local restaurants here.
Yeah. Maeve, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you want to. In our test, we were able to hear you better without your video, but not in the live version. So I don't know if you have had this problem before, and if you want to try to call in on your phone and then just shut your volume off on the computer might be an option if that, but
Yeah, can you hear me now?
yes, way better. Yep, way better.
Way better.
Yep. So maybe you just want to just in pieces, but really kind of tell what your role is at the main course and what you do there, just so everybody can hear that before we start.
Yes. So my role is to primarily to make sure that we're increasing our local Maine food spend for all of our business here in Maine, which is primarily campuses. So I work a lot with producers, farmers, and community partners to do that to our dining halls.
Okay, great. Thank you, Maeve. Okay, again, thank you all for joining us. I think this is going to be a very robust discussion. So, clearly you all have had, a lot of challenges. I think we all have, right, personally and business, that you faced in the last, 2 years. So, just kind of high level, how did you deal with these challenges, right? Like, what were some of those challenges, and then how did you deal with them? So, just so everybody knows, I'm going to facilitate this discussion, and you're going to get to hear. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to get to hear the answers from, all three of the panelists. And so, Darren, let's start with you on this one.
Great, thank you. This is a great question, and to narrow it down to two was the challenging parts. But now I'm going to talk about three. I'll try to keep it brief. But before we get into the big two that I think that we'll be talking a lot about today, I added a third, and that third one is rising customer expectations. Consumers, the demand for instant gratification has exploded. Thanks in a large part to increased use of mobile, online, self-serving operating options. This was especially true with restaurants where customers now demand multiple ways to, place and pick up orders. And I think restaurant owners and operators will have to continue to expand their digital presence to make things as easy as possible, to deliver instantly, rewardingly, seamless customer experiences. Because I think customers have come to expect that both on and off premise. So that was one that we dealt with a lot this summer. And then I'll just continue on to obviously the next two, an exceptionally difficult labor market. The restaurant industry continues to deal with one of the worst labor shortages ever. And it has affected restaurant operators on both ends, as they are challenged retaining and recruiting and serving customers with limited resources. About a year ago, we were fighting for customers. Now today we're fighting for help. And I see that continuing in 2022 and moving forward. I don't see that changing this year. I think some things are in place for it to evolve and come full circle, but I still think it's a big question mark when that's going to happen. I think to ease some of that pressure created by the labor shortage, I think we'll have to see, restaurants really offering employees great flexibility, incentives coming to work, and really just a real getting back to a real work-life balance. if we want to see a real change. So, I look forward to that. I look forward to the changing part of the industry to help curb that labor shortage. So I'm excited to be a part of that as well. And obviously the third one, which we deal with somewhat at Provender, and maybe not as much as some other places, but the supply chain disruption, continues to be a problem, or more of a, with some products, not all products. It's definitely, the pandemic has, disrupted the global supply chain more than anything in like recent history. I think it's going to be important for, businesses and suppliers to just, be flexible and be need for agility on that, to be able to, be able to move quickly and to be able to respond and to communicate faster with restaurants and other places of business. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we go about that as we continue to deal with that on a day-to-day basis.
Great, thank you, Darren. A lot of great insights there. Jack, anything
Yeah,
else?
I echo Darren's two major challenges. For our business, I think our primary one was the supply chain issues. With it being such a catering focused business, our clients expect the menu that they pick. And when you can't get onion rings for over a month during the summer, there's going to be some issues with that. So we kind of were able to, we were able to communicate with everyone to make sure our clients understood that with everything going on, there's a chance that we might not have specific products in-house and we might need to change to a different side or something like that. So that, I think, was our biggest challenge. And then, secondary has been with the restaurants, the labor market. It's, we've been pretty good, but, compared to before the pandemic, we were probably at 28 to 30 employees, part-time and full-time. And now we're down to 15 or so. And they're all now, those people are all now full-time, but it just shows that we've had to completely change and basically focus on the group that wanted to stay with us and stick through it and pay them more and have them work more. And, I think it's worked out for everyone, but it's still a challenge when you're trying to make sure everyone can get some time off. And so I agree a lot with Darren's 2 points.
Great, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, and with a little bit of different ways that you've dealt with it, probably. Okay,
Yeah.
Maine?
Hi, I would agree with the labor. Absolutely, we are, we've had managers in the dish room for 6 weeks at the beginning of the fall semester. So that has been, I think, probably one of the biggest challenges for us. Some food supply issues. And then I think, for the main course, really, at the start of the pandemic, it was the drastic decrease in our purchasing of food, which, obviously had an impact on our local producers and partners.
Right, yeah. So, right, and then here's, where most of the people on the phone today, right, are food producers, are farms that, the reason why we are having you here is for opportunities for them to hear what you're dealing with and then think about how they can help you deal with some of these issues, right, and what it really means for their business. So, when you think about kind of the last year or the last 2 years, can you think of any positive impacts? Like when you think about, hey, you know what, and looking back, this happened and it really stunk because we had to deal with it really live and really quickly, but it has bettered our business or is going to open other opportunities for us. So Jack, anything that you could think that was kind of positive that came out of this, that you were like, hey, this is really good that we learned this and now we can apply it moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest positive impact to our business was with kind of the demand at our restaurants going down a little bit. Our food truck business kind of went up dramatically during COVID because of what, having to have a lot of events outside. And with that, we were able to have a good team in place in Massachusetts that allowed Max and I to come up to Maine and really be up here full time for the first time in almost 3 years. So it really allowed us to kind of grow our business here, expand the months of operation up here, and now I'm now here full time. And none of that could have happened without COVID happening. And it's been, for balance of life and everything like that, it's been really positive. So there have been some good things that have come out of COVID. It's been really challenging, but it has allowed us to focus on parts of our business that didn't get nearly as much as attention as they should have prior to COVID.
Right, and you were lucky that you had that, you were diversified enough that you had that to go to, right, already, versus starting it up from scratch and needing the money to do that.
Yeah, we were really fortunate that we were, spread over a couple of different sectors within the food service industry.
Yeah, great, thank you. Maeve?
Yeah, I think for the main course, because we are, focused on sourcing local food, and we sit within a large company. One of the things that has been positive for us is that the larger aspect of our company that works on sourcing has really seen firsthand the importance of having local suppliers and partners, because when that's where we had the most consistent supply when the pandemic first started. We knew that we could get our meat, some of our high moving items like French fries and pizza dough that we source from local companies, partners are. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think that we saw a lot with the food companies that we worked with. If they were in retail, they actually saw an increase in their revenue in 2020 versus 19, because retail did increase, right? We all know that, like, people stopped going to food service restaurants and they were cooking more at home. But again, depending on your product, it gave, if all the major brands or national brands were not there, it forced people to try some of these other local brands, even at retail, and say, hey, I really like that. And then a lot of the folks have seen that they've seen that gain, right? That people tried their products and they're continuing to buy it. And now they're supporting local. So I think they saw that at the retail chains too. Thanks, Maeve. Darren, anything else you'd add?
Yeah, sure. I think, there was a lot of silver linings that happened in the past 2 years with this. And I look back at it all the time and think about it. It's not that I would want to do it again. I think that we took out of it, I think one of them would be, it really encourages a stronger sense of community. And, I know for myself and some of my employees that, being more present in the community, has helped us establish relationships. Being a bigger part in the community I think it's great for all around mental health. And, I think you name it, we did it. We were trying to, we were all kind of going through this together, whether we were giving meals to the front line or schools or law enforcement, anybody. I think, being able to do that and be there for the community was very special. And, I'm proud of the way that we kind of cruised through that and did it. So I definitely think coming together as one for the community was something really positive for everybody in Ellsworth.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't think I want to do it again either, and I'm still not wanting to do it. So I liked your point of like, yes, we all learned, but no thanks, let's not do this again. Okay, so next, so as you kind of look back and now you're kind of looking at, okay, some of these things are here to stay, what specific, changes, are you making to your business and operations, now? You guys talked about some of the behavior changes of your customers, right? And wanting, their demands are higher, right? In terms of how they can get their food into different options, right? With online, Darren, you mentioned that. You talk about the labor shortages, and you guys talked about supply chain. So how are you, dealing, or what changes are you making to overcome those challenges? So I think this one we're going to start with Maeve answering that question.
I think that's interesting. I kind of have two different answers because as far as operations go, for our business here in Maine, I think there is building in a bit more flexibility in the type of service that we provide. Typically in the campus dining hall, typically students come in and they sit down and they eat. But over the last 2 years, we've had to go back and forth between having in-person dining to, having essentially takeout where students can come and grab their meals, or even delivery if somebody's in quarantine. So building in that flexibility to be able to kind of move fluidly with however our campus partners, our universities decide they want to manage any rise in COVID. For the main course specifically, when thinking about what we're doing around local sourcing, we're really we spent the last 6 years really building up our partnership with businesses here in Maine. And as our program evolves, we're really looking to ensure that we are buying from a diverse group of businesses here in Maine, wanting to make sure that we're recognizing some of our Native American businesses here in Maine, like the Passamaquoddy wild Maine blueberries, so really being more intentional in that aspect of our support of the main core.
Yeah. Interesting, thank you. Okay, what do I have next? Darren?
Yep, so 2 things we'll touch on with that. One, addressing some of our guest and customer needs is like, we're gonna really try to make changes that capture more revenue. We're going to tighten up our times on our turns for our tables. We're asking guests to arrive on time, with their full party. So, and really hold them accountable, for being a small business, for them to show up on time, telling them how important it is not to cancel 5 minutes before your reservation. And at the same time, if all those things work and everybody shows up on time and the restaurant is ready, there won't be any room for anyone who would ever really feel rushed. But we really need everybody to, we really need renting those tables. And we need everybody to say that we're going to be there, to say when they say they're going to be there, to show up and to, follow through with those aspects. And I guess, moving on a little bit about the labor shortage part of any changes we're making to the operations. Well, obviously we're going to be, and I think it goes with everybody, is going to learn to do more with less, and to figure out how we're going to do that. And also, I think to try to reduce, any turnover, we really want to try to use human resource best practice. As best we can, even being a small business. I think we have about 15 employees, but we really need to make sure that we are doing everything on that end the best we can. And when we already offer, competitive pay, we offer benefits, a great work environment and opportunities for growth, all that. But on top of that, we want to make sure everybody's happy being there. And to do that, I think we need to make sure that best practices are being done. So I think we'll be concentrating on that and really just looking forward. I'm not going to really look in the rearview mirror so much in the past 2 years. I don't really rely on the past 2 years data very much. So we're going to just keep moving forward, keep looking forward, and try to proceed that way.
Great, thank you. Jack?
Yeah, so on the restaurant side of things, with us being in the fast casual sector, we've kind of looked at a couple different things. So with staffing, we've now limited our hours. So basically, we only have 1 shift coming in instead of 2, which we had prior to the pandemic. That helps a lot with just being able to manage staff and make sure that everyone gets the hours that they want. We're doing 4-day, 36-hour work weeks, which is huge. A lot of people really value that, and you don't really get that a lot within our industry. And then the biggest thing with the restaurant side of things is focusing on, with any growth or expansion, finding places with really small square footage and doing takeout only. For the fast casual space, I don't really see a huge return to eating in, office workers coming in to eat. I think that it's still going to be a lot of people wanting to bring it, take it out, and not eat in the restaurant. So that not only makes it easier for the operator, but it's actually preferable. So you keep your rent number down. And then on the food truck side of things, we're focused on, expanding adding more trucks to the southern Maine area, and then also, and as a burger guy, it's been a eye-opening experience to see the amount of demand for meatless options. So we do offer a sizable amount, but to a point now where we're starting to work on a completely vegetarian menu that we're hoping to roll out on one of the trucks for different types of weddings and things like that, because there's been a lot of demand and requests for it. So it's been very, very cool to see, and it's really fun for us to try something new.
Great. Just a kind of question, and anybody can answer this, but so takeout, right? Going more into takeout. Does that change? Do you guys offer the same things for takeout that you do for dine-in, and the same thing this would apply to maybe to at colleges and universities, or did you have to change your menu a little bit for the takeout for products that performed well and takeout? Maybe Jack, in your business, fast casual, like maybe you were made right for takeout, your products. The same with Chinese food, right? Chinese food tastes just as good in versus out. But maybe Darren and Maeve, like, did you guys have to look at changing your menu because of that?
Yeah, if I could jump in here. When we first were doing takeout, our vision was never built on doing takeout. One, I hate takeout. But when we had to do it during the pandemic, we switched that menu completely. And we offered more like home style meals and much more approachable dinners for everybody. And it was a nightmare. It was hard. You need a full crew to do that. Some of the bag it, some of the bring it in, some of the bring it out. With curbside pickup, all those things. It was a lot of work. Then we had to battle through 8 different types of to-go containers. And if you got the wrong one, you were stuck with it because you couldn't return it during COVID. It was a process and a half. Now moving forward, we still do takeout, but very limited. Only a few things on the menu. We just don't have. I didn't want to lose the the quality you know, putting something in a to-go container, you know, on a busy Friday night at 7:30, you know, when I have a full dining room. So we ran it very limited. It still continues to be limited, and I really hope we don't have to ever go back to full-time takeout. So that's kind of how we dealt with it and are dealing with it now.
Right. Yeah. So I think with those changes could mean additional opportunities for some food producers of like, you know, okay, well, I know my husband and I would order, say, fried seafood, right? By the time we got it home, we were like, ugh, you know. So again, maybe, you know, how do you keep that crispier? What, you know, you're probably looking at packaging and how you maintain that quality. Maybe what about on the college and university side in terms of, you know, eat in versus takeout? Did you deal with a lot of those same things of what you can do, you know, different menu items for takeout versus eating in?
Yeah, it definitely changes the nature of you know what we're menuing. Seafood was definitely one thing that we just saw a drastic decrease. You know, because so the way that takeout works for our dining services is similar to any restaurant. You know, people go online and they can order what they want, and so based on those preferences, you know, not a lot of seafood was being ordered. So yeah, I think definitely some changes there. You know, salad stuff that you would imagine doesn't necessarily travel as well.
Right.
Was down.
Yeah. So this kind of brings us to kind of this eating out experience and some of that stuff. So I'm going to go a little off script here, Jack. So, you know, you talk about, say you take your restaurant business. Did you always have takeout did you have takeout and eat in for your restaurant business before COVID?
Yeah, so I would say probably like I'd say like 60 to 65% was eat in, and then the 35 or 35% was takeout.
And what is it now, would you say?
Now I would say it's probably maybe 10% eat in, and then
Really?
the rest is takeout. I would say out of that, I would probably say out of that 80%, let's call it, that's takeout, I would say about 40 to 45% is delivery, which is a bummer. It's not the best because they do take upwards of 30%. You know, the Uber Eats and the Grubhub, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it is tough, but I think what we have done now on all the apps is increased our prices even more to kind of make up for that. And we're pretty transparent about that, and let people know that just order online and come pick it up. That's the best way to get our food. And you know, going through delivery adds a ton of fees. So that is it's completely changed. And that's why, you know, what I said before is how, especially for fast casuals, I see just takeout windows as the future for us.
Yeah. Okay, Darren, what are you seeing? Like, so obviously COVID, but what did you see during COVID, like how that shifted in terms of percentages and where you're at today?
Oh boy. I mean, there was that one time when restaurants were basically just shut down. I mean, we were just takeout for, I don't know, a couple months. You know, then as soon as we were allowed to open, of course we did open right away. So, and then I think for us anyway, the to-go kind of trickled down a little bit, you know, slowly as more people were getting comfortable eating back in. You know, so we still do some takeout, but not nearly the levels of you know, shutdown or post restaurant shutdown.
So is that something
But it still exists. We still have people who don't want to eat in, and I know there's, you know, I see the same names every week getting stuff to go, and you know, I think before pandemic, these were the people that were inside dining, you know, spending more money, having drinks. You know, I believe, you know, for us, just to do takeout, you can make money, but you can bring in revenue, but there's no profit. And of course, you know, we need the full dining experience to really, you know,
manage your business, right, and be sustainable, right? Okay, Maeve, what about on the university side? I mean, I have a son who's 21 at the University of Maine, and have you seen that students like are preferring to just, they'd rather just pick stuff up, or do they like to come in and sit down? Like, have you guys had to maintain both of those options as kids are back to school?
It it varies campus to campus. Excuse me. Some of our and depends on, you know, what the university has asked for, but also will depend on labor. You know, some of the campuses have done a hybrid where, you know, those students who are high risk or really are uncomfortable dining in could do takeout. But there are other campuses that just did not have the capacity to offer both takeout and in-person dining. So it was restricted, or they only offered in-person dining. And it has shifted, you know, in the fall, all campuses were doing in-person dining, and then just the last couple weeks, opening in the spring for the spring semester, some campuses have restricted and only do takeout, while other campuses are doing in-person. So it's kind of all over the place for our business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay, so when so let's talk about kind of the types of foods, right, that you know you guys are serving, right? So what I think I'd like to kind of combine two questions here. So what categories of foods or types of foods did you see really show the greatest growth or decline, you know, in terms of what people were asking for and what you had to change to, right? Maybe because of the shifts in your business. And then, you know, when you think about the supplier constraints that you guys have all mentioned, which items were the ones that were hardest to get, right? So with that question, I'm trying to get to what are maybe some opportunities for local producers of like, hey, I can't find, making stuff up, cottage cheese, and I you couldn't find it anywhere, so if you're a cottage cheese supplier, you know, call me. So kind of two questions there, and I think what I'll do, Jack, is start with you on that one.
Yeah. So I would say so for us, like I mean, I think our highest selling items before the pandemic and after remain the same. We definitely saw a lot more, like I was saying before, some more meatless sides that we offer, that a lot of people were interested in and seem to try more during the pandemic. And now it's kind of, we're seeing that still staying there, which is really cool. In terms of items that we had a tough time bringing in, it is like weird because you know, in July it was onion rings, which is, I mean, it's a frozen product, it's nothing special. But even like something like mayo was really hard to get in sometimes, ketchup, mustard, and these are from the big guys. This is Heinz, French's. I mean, it was crazy. I'd never seen anything like it. Even ice cream products were extremely difficult to bring in, and it was calling up every single supplier to see what they had. And there were some times where we'd try to cold call on a different supplier just to see what they had, and they came back and said, we can't take you. You know, you could only work with your suppliers that you already had a relationship with, because they were so short staffed that they had a mandate not to add any new clients. So it really varied from month to month. But those were kind of the big couple items that we really struggled with over the summer.
Yeah, great, thanks, Darren. What did you see?
Yeah, I'll try to answer this the best I can. A two-part question. I think what growth, like food option, I think Jack was spot on with this, and we were a little bit ahead of the curve with this too. Is definitely plant-based options. It is definitely here to stay. We we started out probably with a full on plant-based menu alongside our regular menu, and we have a giant following for it. So we'll continue to move forward with any of those options. And because you think about it, a couple of years ago, a plant-based burger was just a novelty. Now it's everywhere. It's in every store. You should probably see an option on all the menus around in any restaurants. So we're going to be looking to capitalize on any, plant-based, whether it's however you get there, whatever process they're using to make those ingredients now. And I think the supply chain problem, or what we may have done to maneuver, it was sometimes we were able to get the product, but it was at such a high expense because it was such a problem to get it. We've had to, whether we had to raise pricing, because that was only part of the problem, was just not being able to get the product. But the supply chain problem was also, there wasn't enough drivers, so we're paying more people to do this, but it really just increased the price of the product. That was my problem. I could always get burger meat, I could always get this, but it was at double the cost I got it before. So without changing my brand or my vision on some of these products, what I didn't want to do, I had to, figure out how we're going to get it on the menu without just giving it away. And so, the money has to come from somewhere, and with labor costs being as high as they are, and now food costs being as high as they are, and the margins stayed the same, so it's like, well, what are we going to do? So we had to, of course, raise pricing or somewhere on the menu to make up for it. The money had to come from somewhere. So just getting the product was only a portion of the problem with supply chain.
Gotcha. Are you guys still seeing, and maybe I'm going to loop back around with you in a minute, you guys still have the supply chain issues started to close, the gap close, or are they getting worse? Are they getting any better or worse, or it's just different ingredients that are getting worse?
It seems now cream cheese is a problem, ketchup bottles remain a problem. So it seems like there's always one or two things that are and nobody has any answers. These are domestic products. They're not in a cargo ship sitting in California somewhere. Why I don't understand why we can't be getting these products. It's coming from regional sourcing, and it's frustrating to whether it's something as small as some kind of bread or a condiment or something. Just don't. It's hard to run a business around it.
And then for us, I would say it depends on the week, but for the most part, things have, for us, have started to balance out a little bit. I mean, there are those occasional weeks where you send in your order and then you get an email back saying we're out of X, Y, and Z, and you're just gotta go find it somewhere else. And like Dan was saying, at a higher price. So it's getting better, but it's also still kind of not where I'd love it to be.
Right. Yeah. Still changing. Maeve, what about you in terms of the whole, kind of the ingredients that you've seen trends, the ones that you've had the biggest supply issue with, and, if that's starting to smooth itself out?
Yeah, I would agree with what both Jack and Darren said. The situation just it's so fluid, things just keep changing. As far as, trends and what we're seeing, absolutely focusing a lot on plant forward recipes, seeing, well, at the same time, our demand for, your traditional kind of college food, pizza, burgers, French fries, there's also the growing trend with students that are asking for clean food. They want just minimally processed, minimally cooked food. They want a steamed vegetable, rice, and a protein, stuff like that. And some of that, I think, is also being driven by the athletic departments of, getting their teams to eat healthy meals. And for supply, I mean, yeah, it's definitely, things have just keep changing. You know, back in the summer, we were warned that there was going to be a fry oil shortage, and so we, you know, there was fear around not having enough to make our French fries with. And I think more recently, we are seeing a few of our local producers having manufacturing issues because of labor shortages. So it just keeps evolving, and we just kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's no one's fault, right? So some of it you just have to deal with. So, so what can, kind of as we're talking about suppliers, so what can suppliers, and I look at, you know, obviously a lot of people on this webinar today as your suppliers, what can they do to help you overcome or, you know, mitigate some of your supply chain challenges? I mean, you guys mentioned communication. If you know you're not going to have it, let us know ahead of time because it gives us some time to react. But what are some other things that they can do, you know, to help you? And you know, whoever wants to start there to answer that question, what are your thoughts?
I would just say, you know, if I was talking to my suppliers or my sales reps or anybody about any kind of supply chain problems, is to be as transparent and communicate as much as possible. And basically, I'm looking for them to do anything they can to make my life less stressful. You know, whether that is getting ahead of it, finding out more information. Listen, you know, is this product going to be available? You know, or are we done? Or is it 3 weeks out? Is it 1 week out? I need to have this information so I can write menus and move forward and not be waiting last minute on what the answer is going to be. You know, and anything that they can do, whether it's you know, sending order guides or breaking down pricing, all that stuff that allows me to continue to run my business, not from behind a desk, and is really what I'm pushing my suppliers and reps to do, and to really, I mean, because we're on the same team, and I need their input, you know, fast and upfront.
Awesome, great, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, my biggest thing with suppliers is you know, making sure that I have a strong relationship with whoever I'm working with, and that during the pandemic and right now is the most important thing. So I don't care if I have a really good relationship with one of my reps. I don't care if their food is more expensive. I'm going to go through them because I know that they're going to take care of me. And it has been really difficult because there's some smaller suppliers that we like to use that are less responsive and are not getting, we're just not getting notified until we show up in the morning and notice that we're missing 4 items that we ordered. So, you know, for me, it's always relationship building. And if I can find with any company a really good rep, then I'm going to work with them. And, you know, when I want to do a new side or try something different, I'm going to ask them first. And that is something I think is really important. And as food producers are looking to sell their products and working with distributors, I think it's really important to ask questions about, you know, do you have a proper amount of food reps that are going to be able to go out and talk to restaurants, talk to catering companies about my products, because there's companies that just don't do that. And then how as a buyer, how am I supposed to know about this new awesome seaweed company that has just released something that could be really helpful for our business? And that's just a brief example.
Yeah, great. Maeve, anything to add from your perspective?
No, I think pretty much the same. Like, just really communication, you know, is key, and keep maintaining those relationships, being transparent with we're all in this together, we're all trying to muddle through it, and so let's work together and make the best of it.
No, great. So I have one last question for you guys facilitate, and then I want to open it up because there are some questions in the chat, and there's a lot around kind of local and some different things. But one last question for each of you, and we'll start with you, Jack. What do you see as the biggest opportunities for Maine producers in 2022 and beyond? You're from Maine. I mean, what do you see as the biggest opportunities?
Yeah, I think it seems like with what everyone is talking about, the biggest opportunity is in plant-based foods. It is a sector that it's a really interesting sector because you have companies like Impossible Foods that are creating this, meatless burger that, looks really cool. But, when I talk to a lot of vegetarians and vegans I know, they want to know what's in their products. And when you look at the back of a label from one of these bigger companies, there's a lot of things that it's a highly processed, high in sodium product that's just not as healthy as better alternatives that come from all over the place. But I think there's this new avenue for food producers to be able to sell these plant-based products that are going to only go up in demand, especially from a local perspective. We use Blue Mango Veggie Burgers. They're based in Westbrook, and he's been doing it a long time now. But I think there's way more demand now for these type of products.
Yep, great. Darren?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reiterate with Jack. If you can get on that plant and cell-based food train, you see giants like 11 Madison Park going full plant-based from Michelin-star restaurants. That's unheard of, and it's still it's working. It's still doing that. So, I think if researchers are right, you're going to see about 12 million consumers eating meat-free and 98% rise in vegans compared to this time last year. And we see it every day at the restaurant. Every day we sell off a vegan menu, a plant-based menu. I tend not to use the word vegan. I think that sounds like a club that nobody wants to belong to. So I say plant-based a lot. But I think that it's here to stay, and I think, even Maine probably gets more of that working with the Gen Z population that, they're calling the shots. They want to see where the food is coming from, how sustainable it is, what it's made with, what the companies that are put out of these companies, what are their values, what is their structure. So, I wish I had another answer, but I really think this is the top of what we're seeing. And
great.
Have these options available is going to be big.
Helpful. Great. Maeve? What are your
yeah, I would agree. I think just piggybacking on that, this generation definitely wants to know the story behind your business. They want to know your values. They want to know where you're sourcing ingredients. And that's stuff that we love to be able to share with students as they, kind of transition into the world and start their own money to support their community. I think we do, as I had mentioned, definitely plant forward is here. And then looking, we also have retail kind of C-store operations. And that's one place where, we here in Maine could really use more products that students would be interested in spending, using their own money to purchase. So like when they come into the dining hall, they're typically on a board meal plan. And then some students are able to come in to their retail outlets and decide to use their out-of-pocket money to purchase, what you would see in a convenience store, chips and crackers. And so what are the local items that we could really start driving? We have things like potato chips. We have a few different chocolate companies, but what other products are there that are really trending right now? And then just in general, a product that we've been looking for is yogurt, something that's made with Maine milk, and that comes in an institutional size package.
Great. Okay, well, thank you all for this facilitated part. And at this point, I'd like to open it up. Tanya's has been watching the chat, and so Tanya, I'll hand it over to you for questions for the panel.
Great, thanks, Sue. One of the questions we had early on that you guys have talked to a little bit, but it had to do specifically with the cost of local products and how you're balancing that with all the other increasing costs that you're seeing, and the fact that there's demand for local. How does that all work out in your business planning?
I could maybe jump in on this one a little bit. And for us, so we always try to support small farmers and local produce and people in the community, but we have to do it when it makes sense. So if something is not priced properly, even though it's local, and I was going to have to charge double for it, that maybe not be the right product for me. So my philosophy has always been, I'll support local, but it has to make sense for the restaurant.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, and just follow up, for us, we kind of look at it as, we have a specific margin we have for food costs that it needs to hit, it can't go over. So, if during the summer, if we're adding local cauliflower and Maine grown tomatoes, our prices are going to reflect that, and it's going to go up a little bit. Our prices are going to go up a little bit. So that's kind of how we deal with that.
Yeah, and I think the consumers and guests have come accustomed to that. They know that if we're using a quality product, using a local product, that you're going to pay a little bit more for it, and I think they're okay with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Maeve, anything you'd add?
Yeah, the way that the philosophy that we've had around local sourcing and knowing that some products, not all products, but some products can have a premium, is our chefs do a really great job at being creative when, if they're using a local meat, say that they somehow budget accordingly so that they can balance that higher cost. But obviously within reason, I think is key, is like where we'll bring in local products, knowing that they're going to have a higher price point within reason.
Great, thanks for that information. We also had a question around how you all are discovering local suppliers. We have somebody on the call from Department of Ag who mentioned a database that they have that has some information on local suppliers. Are there any other resources that people can have their information in or use to connect with businesses?
I did not know about this this business-to-business searchable database. It's really amazing, actually. Like I just actually clicked on it. More of things like this, because with us, and I don't know how the other panelists feel, but when we find our suppliers, we tend to just keep with them because we have good relationships with them, and that can sometimes not necessarily bring about these new suppliers, new products that we could be getting to try if we were able to figure out where to get them.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then a lot of my local suppliers, they find me. I mean, they're at my back door, and where they have all this great stuff. And then I think that's how the relationship builds. And then we get on we're talking to them on a weekly. Now they're planting stuff for us, in the spring, so we can buy from them this summer. So we're working real closely together on upcoming seasons, you know, and I have 2 or 3 that are just growing stuff that, you know, so they can have enough volume of the stuff. That was the problem with some of the local farmers, was they couldn't keep up with the demand. You know, if I needed 30 pounds of carrots on Friday, you know, well, they got 10. Well, I need 30. You know, so we have to subsidize somewhere else. So they're trying to find things. What are we really going to use? What are some of the ingredients that, you know, we're really going to need for the summer, and so that we can continue to get all that stuff from them, and it creates like this little ecosystem, if you will. You know, we have room for 3 or 4 of those, you know, farmers on our list, and you know, we look forward to that every year. You know.
Excellent. Maeve, anything you'd add?
No, I think, you know, people find us in very different ways, word of mouth, discussions like this, through distributors. You know, if you are in with a distributor, making sure that you're still out there, like reaching out to people, because sometimes the distributors don't always do the sales part as much as you would as a business owner.
Good point. I just want to let everybody know that graciously, Jack, Darren, and Maeve do have their contact information. It is on you'll get a copy of the presentation, which is very small, but their contact information is on there, right? So reach out is what they're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Please do it.
So we just have, I'm looking at the clock, we have about a minute left. And I think there was one last question that had to do with some quick advice for entrepreneurs that might be trying to start a food business right now. Any quick last words of encouragement or advice?
It's a tough market right now with all the things that we're talking about, but it can be done. You know, just make sure you have all your ducks in a row and line everything up from, you know, from labor to cost control, and you know, I think we'll eventually see things full circle in a matter of time.
Yeah, just know what you're getting into. I think the food industry is a 24/7, 365 type business, and if you are prepared for that, then jump in with 2 feet. I think it's, I mean, my favorite part about this industry is that no 2 days are the same, and get to be on our feet. So I really do love it.
yeah.
And Sue, if I could just close with one last small statement. You know, I think we've talked about a few things that, you know, negative food supply and labor shortages. I think, you know, while the processes and the suppliers need to supply the products are shifting, and we're doing different things. I think those are temporary challenges and temporary changes. I think everybody should know that the need for these products will always be there, and that should help those in the industry. You know, rest assured that, you know, we'll preserve regardless of these challenging market conditions. You know, it's just a speed bump. I think we're going to get through this. Things we're going to get back to where we were pre-pandemic. But figuring out ways how we're going to navigate that from now to then is kind of what we're doing. You know, this is not a lifelong problem we're going to have. Things will come around.
Yep, agreed. They better.
Yeah. Sure.
Great. Maeve, any last words?
I would just reiterate that, you know, if you're starting a new food business, like, do research, market research, and make sure that there's really a strong demand for your product. You know, if there's multiple of a similar product on the market already, you know, for when we partner with someone, it's hard to have a new business come in and say, well, my product is better. And it's like, we like to honor the relationships that we started. So, you know, to kind of make sure that you're coming in with a product that people are really looking for, it would be my suggestion and advice.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much for joining us this morning. It was a pleasure to hear from you and your various perspectives. We'll have a link to today's video and recording posted online soon after the end of today's session. Our next session is next Thursday, February 3rd, where we will be talking with food retailers. And if anyone has questions in the meantime, our email address is sellingmoremainefoods@gmail.com. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone, and have a good day. Any last words, Sue?
No, just thank you very much for the panel. Very insightful for me, and I'm sure a lot of producers, and for me to take with the food producers we're working with that maybe couldn't attend today. So thanks so much for your time.